Good evening and happy Sunday. And if you're watching this, welcome back to Night TV. As you might have seen in the introduction, I was trying to film with that bright kitchen light on, but I had to turn that bad boy off because it was just impeding my vision. It was causing a glare on the screen, but you didn't come here for that. So on today's episode of Death on the Dirt Road, we're going to be talking about Keyona Buskey. Now this one does deserve a trigger warning. It is about the death of a child, and if you have been watching, then you notice that most of my cases recently have been about the death of the child. And I'm doing this to make a point because I heard some very disparaging remarks regarding people going to prison for that sort of thing, and you know what people do to child killers and people who hurt children in prison. And I just want to dispel that rumor right now. That is not true. Maybe in some prisons, I can't speak for them all because I've only worked in one female prison, but I will tell you that these people are in good company, and I'm making this series of videos to let you see that there are so many people, a vast majority of people in the women's prison, and these are just my own statistics, but they have either hurt or maimed a child, and in some horrific cases they have killed them. So that is why you have been seeing that pattern lately. I'm going to go ahead and get into the facts of this case. I'll just tell you to buckle up. It's a wild one, and it's not the most easy to get through, but we're going to get through it as we always do, so stay tuned. This is another one of those older cases where not a lot of photos were found. I managed to scrape up a few photos of Keyona Buskey, but that's only because those are like SCDC images and arrest images, but no photos of the child were found, which I don't really like to cover cases where I can't find photos, but I feel like the explanation alone will get us through. Keyona Nicole Buskey was 19 years old when in the year 2000 she drowned her 3-year-old son Joshua in the bathtub. Keyona called 911 at about 5:45 p.m. on a Wednesday to report that she had taken a nap and woken up to find her front door open and her baby gone. Right away, officers launched a massive search. They set their missing child plan into action by alerting the media and local child organizations, all to no avail. At least 300 students from nearby Claflin University as well as South Carolina State University were called onto the scene. They swarmed the area as well as other various volunteers while helicopters circled on top. Keyona stayed with the officers and answered questions, kind of gave a witness statement as to what had occurred, while other officers swarmed the area by putting up missing posters when they found out that the body of little Joshua had been found. One officer on the scene gave an account of one of the relatives stating that they were holding out hope that another relative had simply picked Joshua up and that this had all been one big misunderstanding. Sadly, it was not. The body of 3-year-old Joshua Buskey had been found underneath the crawl space of the home. It was stuffed so far underneath the crawl space that officers hadn't seen it the first time they looked there. Later on, it was found out that Keyona Buskey had, in fact, admitted involvement in her son's death. Officers searched around to find if others were involved in the crime, and they could not determine any other people to be involved, and they did say that the father did not live in the home. It was said that nothing unusual was heard outside of the home where Keyona Buskey lived with her son and 2 uncles. It was just a regular Wednesday. By Thursday, 3 police officers were stationed outside of the home, and yellow crime scene tape cordoned off the area. Joshua was remembered as a bright light who was sort of advanced for his age. He was talking, he had potty trained, and he adored his mother. Friends even joked that Keyona would have trouble once Josh started dating because he was just that attractive. Keyona's mother, Linda Buskey, said that she was shocked by the news. Appalled is more like it. She tells me she's sorry, her mother continued. I asked her why. She said she didn't know. Keyona Buskey was unemployed at the time, but had recently worked at a convenience store. She also worked at a local Shoney's restaurant, but had quit, and then several months later had returned. She worked only a few days before she was fired yet again. Keyona, who had no prior criminal record, had plans to move to Aiken with her mother. She was subsequently charged with murder, with plan to change the crime to homicide by child abuse if it was determined to be appropriate. A charge of homicide by child abuse is usually easier to prosecute because it doesn't have to be proven that the crime was committed with malice and aforethought, the legal term for premeditation. Keyona was then taken to the Orangeburg County Detention Center on Ellis Avenue, where she remained until the time of her trial. During trial, Joshua was remembered as a bright and spunky little boy, And because of this, and because of the genuine heartbreak of everyone in the courtroom, Keyona was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of her 3-year-old son, Joshua Buskey. I did manage to find a Google Street View of the home on Clark Street. It is now boarded up, as you can see, but this is the generalized area where the crime took place. Now, once you go and put the 597 Clark Street address in the Google Maps, it does not come up to that address, but once you type it into Google, it shows the home as 597 Clark Street. So I'm believing that maybe the Google truck may have gotten it wrong, or the satellite may have picked it up, or it's just the way that the houses were numbered. But this is the home where the crime was committed, and underneath that porch, in that crawl space, is where little Joshua's body was found. Whew. Okay. In the tradition of Death on a Dirt Road, I'm going to give my thoughts on Keyona. I met Keyona, like I did most of the people that I feature, in the year 2012, when once again I began my tenure at Camille Griffin Graham Correctional Institution. She was one of the original inmates that I encountered, and I don't know why I classify them like that, other than the fact that those are the ones who were around when I first, started working there, and they are the ones who stick out in my mind because they were the most trouble or the most involved, or there was something about them that was worth remembering. Now, my thoughts on Keyona are as such. In the beginning, she was quiet and not as outgoing as she was when I was starting to leave there. She's young, or she was younger. She probably was in her early 30s when I first met her, but she still had the mindset of that 19-year-old kid who had not yet developed. And she would do things like she made a dildo out of like an ace bandage. It was a strap-on type of deal, and she used an ace bandage, 2 pads, a toothbrush, and I know these things because we had to deconstruct one once, but that's neither here nor there. And she put a latex glove over it, and she would wear it in her pants. And there are no secrets in the penitentiary. That is true. So other inmates would tell my coworkers and I what was going on. And I remember once they went to go and strip search her. That is the term for in prison, where they do just what it sounds like. They make them strip, and they do an inspection, an overall inspection. Now, they can't do like a cavity search because that's something you have to consult medical for. But if an inmate is suspected of a rules violation, then no holds are barred. And she was strip searched, but she did not have it on. And I laughed and laughed because I could not believe that someone was doing something like this. Now, recently they started the transgender program. This might have been a few years ago, and she was one of the first ones to undertake that, where they could the females who were transitioning to men and vice versa, but those females were allowed like boxer shorts, stuff that she felt more comfortable in. So she did take advantage of the transgender program. She is really she loves hard. Let me say that, okay? When she gets a girlfriend on the yard, there's always something with her. I think that's where most of her trouble comes in. She stays in lockup. I know she's been doing drugs, as evidenced by this picture. Her eyes look just droopy. I mean, either that or that baby is riding her to death, because she just looks like a shell of her former self. Now, she never looked too flattering, kind of duckish to me, no shade. But, just take a comparison of these photos. That looks nothing like the Keyona that I met. But anyway, I just feel like her attitude can sometimes be a little flippant. She's a little flippy. She is on medication, that type of deal, but I feel like a lot of them use that to their advantage for certain things. I know at one point, if you were determined to be in a area of mental health or something to that effect, you could not be transferred to the other prison. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why people prefer to stay at Camille Graham. I think it's because the rules were so much more relaxed, because I'm told at Leith, it is an army boot camp over there. It's so clean and pristine that you can eat off the floors. And that's because that's the way that they run it. Now, Camille, I won't call it a joke, but so, we have things of like that. to think about. So, I mean, that might answer my question. It might not, but they preferred to stay. And so she would do things and engage in certain things where she could not be transferred. Now, I think they did get her once, if I'm remembering correctly. She did go over to Leith for some time, but they brought her back and the trouble started all over again. I don't have a problem with Keyona. I just think that even at the age of 41, she has a lot of growing up to do. It's okay to be jokey. It's okay to be goofy, but to, put away childish things sometimes. Everybody is a fool for love at one point or another, but she just takes that to another dimension, another I don't know even how to put it, but again, I don't have an issue with her. I can't remember or recall her ever disrespecting me, and you'll hear that also as a running theme, because I ran myself. I could not control everyone else, and I could not control the attitudes and the narratives of the people around me. But a lot of people tried to be super cop. That was not my deal. I tried my best to be approachable. I tried my best, to make it to where they were not afraid to talk to me. And I felt like that made my life easier in a lot of cases, because if you've ever seen an inmate upset, they're going to do any and everything, especially in a place that treats them as though they're at summer camp. They're just going to take advantage of everything they can take advantage of. So I didn't want to be one of those things. I didn't want to be, causing trouble for myself. So at the end of the day, I tried to be nice. And if any inmate is watching this video and you have a difference of opinion, you can surely let me know. But the general consensus of inmates I've spoken to, from the past, or who might be on my Facebook page or something like that, they've all said the same thing. So that's what I'm going to go with. But those were my thoughts on Keyona. I hope she has put some of that foolishness behind her, because life is going to be really, really rough if you continue on in the way that you are. You're behind a wall. Everybody is controlling everything you do, say, eat, speak. I understand what it is to want independence. I understand what it is to want to do things your own way, but that's the nature of the beast when you do something so heinous as what was done. But don't take that as a judgment. Just take that as a fact. Keyona, again, no issues. If you ever see this video by some stretch of the imagination, then know that Miss Hampton is genuine in what she says. I think you can do better, and I hope you will do better. But I'm going to end this episode here of Death on the Dirt Road. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anyone you want to see, and I'll do my best to make it happen. I'm on the road to 500, so tell someone to tell someone about this channel, and I'll see you guys again in the next one. Peace. I want you right here.